All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a fascinating legal mystery straight from the Talmud. It all starts with something super simple, an oven, but it spirals into this incredible debate about purity, holiness, and what makes an ordinary object sacred. So, picture this. You're in your kitchen and you accidentally smear some forbidden fat inside your oven. Is that just a simple cleanup job? Or have you just made that oven completely unusable forever? It sounds like a small thing, but this is the exact question that kicked off a massive Talmudic debate, and we're going to follow the logic step by step to see exactly how the sages figured it out. So here's our roadmap for cracking this case. We'll start with a really harsh, absolute ruling about this oven. Then we'll see how a totally contradictory idea gets thrown into the mix. From there, we'll watch the puzzle get solved, see how that solution gets stress-tested against the super high-stakes case of the Holy Temple, and finally, we'll uncover the ultimate principle behind it all. Okay, so our story kicks off with a scholar named Rabba bar Ahilai. He gets asked a very practical, real-world question that probably came straight out of someone's kitchen. And his verdict is, wow, it's pretty extreme. He rules that because the fat soaked into the porous clay walls of the oven, it's permanently tainted. You can never truly get it all out. So any bread baked in there is forbidden forever. You'd think that's case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Just when it seems like the matter is settled, the other sages pull out a trump card. They bring up a much older, very authoritative teaching, what's known as a baraita, that seems to say the exact opposite. And here's the conflict, right there in black and white. You've got Rabba's ruling on one side saying forever, and this ancient teaching on the other side saying only until it is kindled. These two things just can't both be true at the same time. Or can they? This is exactly the kind of puzzle the Talmudic mind loves to solve. And, this older teaching, it just makes intuitive sense, right? It suggests a pretty simple solution. Just fire up the oven again. The intense heat that bakes your bread should be more than enough to burn away any of that absorbed fat, basically making the oven kosher again and perfectly fine to use. This is the absolute heart of the problem. What do we do now? Is Rabbi just flat out wrong? Is the ancient teaching being misunderstood? Or, and this is the exciting part, is there some hidden detail, some deeper principle that could actually make both of these rulings correct in their own specific situations? And this is where things get really clever. Instead of just picking one side and throwing the other out, the sages start digging deeper. They propose a series of distinctions to try and make both sources work together. And they start by looking at the materials. Okay, so the first idea they float is this. Maybe it's all about what the thing is made of. Perhaps Rabba's super harsh forever rule applies to a porous earthenware pot, where stuff can really seep in deep. And maybe the more lenient teaching is talking about a non-porous metal oven, which you can easily clean with fire. It's a solid theory, but they're about to make it even sharper. The new refined theory is even more nuanced. It's not just about the material. It's about how it's heated. See, an earthenware pot that just sits on top of an external flame doesn't get hot enough on the inside to burn out what's absorbed. But an earthenware oven, which has the fire blazing on the inside, well, that generates enough intense direct heat to totally cleanse itself. And that is the key, the aha moment. Kindling from the inside is powerful enough to clean, but kindling from the outside isn't, so the contradiction is solved. Rabba was talking about a pot heated externally, that's uncleanable. The ancient teaching was talking about an oven heated internally, and that is cleanable. Everyone's right. But just when we solve this puzzle, a much, much bigger one appears. So now the whole conversation shifts. We're leaving the everyday household kitchen, and we're going straight to the most sacred space in all of Judaism, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And here, the rules have consequences that are infinitely greater. And here is the brand new problem. If we just establish that earthenware can be cleansed with enough heat, like, putting it back into a super hot kiln, then why does the Torah itself command that sacred earthenware vessels used in the temple have to be shattered? Why not just purify them? It seems to contradict everything we just figured out. And the answer is something you would probably never guess. It's surprisingly practical. It actually comes down to city planning. The sages explain that kilns, which you'd need for that intense firing to cleanse the pots, were completely banned from Jerusalem. And why? because of the massive amount of smoke they produced. You could almost think of it as an ancient environmental regulation. And this leads to some really incredible details about the unique sanctity of ancient Jerusalem. Not only were there no kilns, there were also no garbage dumps or scrap heaps in the city. So, what did they do with all these broken holy pots? The Talmud says something amazing happened, a miracle. The shards were just miraculously absorbed right into the ground of the temple courtyard. Okay, so this brings us to the final, ultimate question. We've proven an oven heats from the inside, so it can cleanse itself, even if it's made of earthenware. So, in the Holy Temple, why go to all the trouble and expense of building the special oven out of metal? There must be some other principle at play here, something that goes beyond the simple laws of purity. And this is where we get to the deepest layer of the whole argument. To solve this last piece of the puzzle, we have to move beyond the physics of heat and into the metaphysics of holiness itself. To get this, we have to understand this very specific category of object, the kli sharet, which basically means a service vessel. Now, this isn't just any old tool. A service vessel is a special object used in the temple that has the actual power to transfer holiness to the offering it holds. So let's just walk through the logic here, step by step. The temple oven baked sacred breads like the famous Shewbread. Now, that bread dough was not considered holy when it was put in the oven. It was the very act of being baked inside that specific oven that made it holy. So you see, the oven wasn't just cooking. Its job was to bestow sanctity. It was functioning as a service vessel. And here it is, the one fundamental rule that cracks the entire case. According to Jewish law, objects made of metal or wood could be designated as a sacred service vessel, but earthenware could not. It's just not a valid material for an object that needs to perform this sanctifying function. And there you have it. That is the final, brilliant answer. The reason the temple oven was made of metal had absolutely nothing to do with whether it could be cleaned. An earthenware one would have been perfectly fine for that. No, it had to be metal because only a metal vessel had the necessary spiritual status to be a kli sharet and actually make the bread holy. So after that whole journey, what are the big ideas to walk away with? First, we see that Talmudic logic is incredible. It tries to harmonize conflicting ideas, not just pick a winner. We learn that physical details, like what something is made of and how you heat it, have real spiritual consequences. But I think the most profound lesson is that an object's purpose can elevate it from something totally mundane to something truly sacred, showing just how deeply connected the physical and spiritual worlds really are. And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder. We started with a simple, dirty oven, but we ended up talking about the very nature of holiness. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our own lives, when does an everyday object, through its purpose and our intention, become something more?